No, I've got to go. Got to go. Okay, bye. Hi, everyone. Hey, who's here? Craig. Craig won the first person to log in race today. Hello. Hello, Kay. Hello, Anne. Cody and John. Paul and Roz. Greg and Haley. Hello. 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 Cody and John have got the Ottolenghi mushroom lasagna. Fantastic. Hello, Michael. How lovely to see you. Don't have the box. Loving the older Robinson. Absolute. Oh, no. Michael, now you've got mixed up. The Robinson doesn't have any whole bunch. Well, one Robinson has whole bunch, but not this one. So it's the Garden Vineyard that's the whole bunch wine. But I love a whole bunch wine too. We've just been running around like crazy things today, but that's all good. What else do I have to say? Karen and Joan, hello. Not just Craig. I'm sure you've got your got your ladies with you. Peter, already enjoying this with mushroom risotto. How delicious. Well, I think I better get into. Hello, Emily and Kevin. Lovely to see you. So I'm really looking forward to this wine as well. It's the 2013 Robinson Pinot Noir. Oh, gosh. Bad lighting. I'm not having a lot of luck with my lighting. There you go, 2013. Sue and Daryl, hello. How are you going? And I've had a sad message from Sue and Jeff. They've lost their bottle of wine. I wonder whether it got drunk by mistake or whether it's gone walkabouts. Anyway, I hope, Sue and Jeff, you found something to drink to keep us company. Hello, David. How you doing? Good to see you. All right, let's get this wine in the glass. So 2013, Big Pine Mushroom Tart, forage from Red Hill. I was going to just mention, Greg and Haley, how cool is it that the mushrooms, just I reckon since Easter, with that bit of rain that we had after all that lovely sunshine, that bit of rain has made all the mushrooms pop up. It's incredible. Fiona, hello, Fiona. Mushroom vol au vents and fried camembert here, Joan, Karen, and Buddha. Hello, Buddha. The dogs are here, but they've gone upstairs. Mum and Dad have got Jen and Nick here to play bridge. So they've gone upstairs to play bridge. Lots this year, absolutely, mushroom-wise. So that brings me to, before I start this tasting, now that I've got some wine in my glass, I'll just let it open up a little bit. I don't think putting it in a decanter is necessary, but a little bit of air is always good. Yep, a little bit of air is always good. It's just a little closed and it will open up quite quickly. Hello, Sonia. Waiting on the mushroom pie with Tess, Sean, and Alethea. And Sasha the Beagle. Excellent. Good. I love it now that people are getting together with their friends to do drinks with Kate. It makes Thursday night a very special night, I think. So cheers to that. I better. Everyone who was with me last year knows that you can't say cheers and not drink. So hang on a sec. Yum. Delicious. Anne's made the mushroom tarts and they look very yum. Excellent. I saw Alison earlier today. Rob and Deb are away at Alison's house sitting for them, and they have an enormous veggie garden. So I went down to help Alison with the depleting of the figs and chilies and tomatoes and what else did I get? Oh, tromboli, zucchini, all sorts of wonderful things. So I saw Alison. She's going to be with us in a bit when they get back from dog training. With the dog, of course. But she was saying she was making the mushroom tarts too. They're really, if you haven't made them for tonight, I highly recommend you give them a go because they're not terribly difficult and they're really delicious. And you can put tarragon on them, you can put dill on them, you can put thyme on them. Whatever herb you kind of sub in is going to just sing with those flavours. So pretty special. All right, now what was I? Fiona. Good evening. I didn't manage to forage for today. Going tomorrow. Oh, pines on the menu. Mix of Swiss browns and king oysters. How delicious. There is definitely, Cotty, a bit of forest floor on the nose, which is, hello, Shell. Lazy selection of cheeses. Excellent. Crumbly smoked cheddars going really well with the wine. Excellent. Oh, that's good. That's not one that I would have thought of, but I can imagine that slight smoky kind of salty cheddary flavour would work well. So, yes. One of the reasons that I suggested that we match this wine to mushrooms is because of that real forest floor character on the nose and on the palate. What, I hear you ask, am I talking about with forest floor? So this is quite a European and English. Hello, Jeff. Polly's just come bursting through the door. Hello, Polly. English European kind of descriptor for Pinot Noir. And the Italians, the French call it sous bois, which means under the woods, under the trees. Hello, Nigel, and Nigel's parents from New Zealand. Welcome. Welcome to all the streets. Good to have you on. Sue and Jeff are at the party. Excellent. Right. Walnut cheese, Shell. Is that cheese with walnuts on it? Or is it like, I can't believe it's not cheese that's made out of walnut butter or something? Please tell us more about the walnut cheese. While you're typing, I'm going to get in at Paul. Shh. Don't be silly. It's going to be one of those nights. Desert floor in Oz doesn't work so well. No. So sous bois or forest floor in Europe, if you think about walking through a traditional European forest that's got lots of deciduous trees, the leaves are falling, they're brown, they're dried, they're starting to rot on the floor. It's kind of damp under the tree canopy because you don't get a lot of sunshine in there. So you've got those sort of damp, mossy, earthy kind of aromas, which are really, really lovely. Polly's now sitting like a beautiful dog waiting for me to tell her what to do next. So we'll see how long that lasts for. Good girl, Pol. Also, a little bit of strawberry. Sometimes you have strawberries or blueberries growing under the forest canopy, which also can be part of that forest floor coat. Oh, she's pissed off with me. She's trying to get back into the kitchen, but she kicked the door in such a snit that it didn't work properly. Try again, Pol. Those earthy characters are starting to come up really beautifully, but some lovely little kind of wild strawberries. And the wild strawberries grow sort of in the mountains in the Alps. They're very perfumed. They're teeny tiny. And when you get a good one, you'll never, ever forget what they smell or taste like. Actual cheese with soft walnut layers. Okay, sounds interesting. Wow. Thank you for the clarification, Shell. I chopped my thumb yesterday. I have to so my vintage injury for the year is not a vintage injury. I was cooking lunch because I was having a day off, and Richard had just sharpened the knives, and I was chopping a chili, and then my thumb got in the way. So I almost chopped off the end of my thumb. And I can tell you, even after washing it underwater and then staunching it with Band-Aids to stop the bleeding, the heat from the chili juice that got into the wound was very unpleasant for most of the day yesterday. So that's my vintage wound for the year. It's not quite as dramatic as some of them. Chili juice in a cut is very nasty. Okay, Kevin's eating aged manchego. Excellent. And Emily's having cashew nut cheese with red pepper flavour. Oh, no. I think the red pepper flavour would fight with the cashew nut cheese might be okay with the wine, but I think that red pepper flavour might be a bit challenging, Emily, but good on you for giving it a crack. It's hard. I don't know enough about non-dairy cheeses to give you any advice there. You know a lot more about those things than me, so keep working on it. Thank you, Michael. It's fine. I talk about chopping the end of my finger off, and there was a nice flap, and I did get some fingernail as well, but I think it's sticking back together quite nicely now. So I think I'll be all right, Michael. I'm all right. Okay, I'll get back to this wine. I'm so glad that that's a good match with the tarts, Anne. It is smooth. Let's get past the forest floor character because I keep getting distracted. It's one of those nights. It's all right. Chili works as an antiseptic, Peter hears. Thank you, Peter. Welcome to Drinks with Kate. It's lovely to see you. I hope you remember to take some wine home this week. Next, forage. Yes, absolutely. Take this wine. Take a bottle of this wine. Sit for a while in the woods with the wine. Enjoy the whole experience. Hello, Nareem and all of the dyes. Lovely to see you. Duck salami waiting for the first taste. Give it a go, Sonia. Okay, let's stick some of this in our mouths. As well as the forest flora, it's got this lovely pure kind of, there's a little floral note. It's not quite rose petals. It's not quite violets. It's somewhere in between, but it is a little floral. There's also a beautiful cherry fruit character. Hello, Nina. Glad you're enjoying the wine. Mm. And amazing. So, not amazingly, I think compared to the nose, the palate seems quite fresh. It's got a real kind of red cherry crunch to it. And yes, I do agree, Craig, that the acid is pretty tangy in this wine. Not particularly surprisingly high for the Robinson Pinot, but I think that as the fruit voluptuousness has kind of just settled down a little bit, and the acid comes through a bit more and the tannin comes through. So acid in wine never drops off as it ages. It just sort of, it seems to change shape because the fruit flavors around it are changing flavor. So it's pretty interesting the way we experience acid in younger wines and older wines. But I think I agree with you, Craig, that this wine on its own looks a little bit sharp. I've got my little vinegar flies come to visit me again today, so I'll be doing a bit of this again. I'll try not to. It doesn't make for great television. A little bit of cinnamon, Greg and Hayley, on the nose. Absolutely. A little bit of cinnamon, a little bit of clove, a little bit of pomegranate molasses. So remembering from last week, I said that 2013 was quite a warm year. And particularly for Pinot Noir in a warm year, I find we get the Robinson Pinot still has that red fruited character to it. So sort of red cherry, there's a little bit of black cherry, which softens out with some age. And again, remembering that this wine is 10 years old, so it's had significant time in the bottle to kind of evolve and soften out, and it does change and evolve quite slowly. It's still looking surprisingly fresh for a 10-year-old wine. But hello, Samantha, you made it. Hooray. Welcome to all the crosses on the line. And you can see from the colour, it's got quite a dark colour. I mean, it's quite dark in here anyway. I've got all the lights on and my beautiful round light that you sent, Michelle, but it's still quite dark in here. I'm not quite used to the sort of the winter gloom yet that's starting to surround us at soon after 6 on a Thursday night. But there's quite a lot of colour in there and quite a lot of dark fruit intensity. But because it's the Robinson, it has that red crunchiness. And in a year like 2013, in a warmer year, we get this Moroccan spice and Moroccan flavour kind of coming through in the wine. And that's what I mean with the cinnamon, the cloves. There's some bit of cardamom. There's, as I said, pomegranate molasses. In a cooler year, if we were looking at the 2012 Robinson Pinot as a contrast, which we might do in a future box, who knows? In a cooler year, you get more sort of Asian flavors, more soy and five spice and star anise and those kind of things. So it's really interesting how the different season and the amount of heat and the amount of sunshine really affects the aroma and flavor profile for the wine. We're seeing that lovely purity and brightness that we always see in the Robinson Pinot, and which is one of the reasons that we decided to start making a Robinson Pinot as a single vineyard wine in the first place. It's got this kind of line and drive to it, which is really rather special. Craig, what has been your warmest year? Oh, hello, Penny. How are you? Moorooduc Estate Robinson Pinot Noir 2012. Well, I was just talking about that. And the 2012 compared to this wine will be a little bit more red fruited, it will be a little bit more savoury. It will have a little bit more soy and star anise kind of notes to it, but it still will be absolutely delicious. So I hope you're enjoying your Robinson 2012, Penny. Craig, I'm thinking, this is a question that I need Jeremy or Richard on the line for, because they have this photographic memory of all of the different vintages and how it went and what October and November and December and January and February were like. And I just don't remember that sort of detail. We do have it all written down, so I could go back to the book and have a look, but that would make for very boring television. So 13 was a pretty warm year. Hello, Sharpie and Rod. Welcome. Lovely to see you. Oh, Penny, mussels. I would personally have mussels with Chardonnay or Pinot Gris, but that's just me. And if you, depending on how you've cooked your mussels and what you've cooked them with, I think they could work very well with your Pinot Noir. See how it goes. We had a big conversation, and I will come back to warmest years, Craig. I'm just kind of giving my brain time to catch up. Yes, Nareem, I think 2009 was a year that people think of as being a really hot year, but in fact, it was mostly a cool year with some real heat spikes. So we had two major heat spikes in January, which was when the bushfires happened and it got really, really hot. But most of 2009 actually was not a really hot year. So it's an example of a year that looked like it was going to be hot, but then wasn't as hot as we thought it was going to be. Whereas 2010 was actually pretty warm as a whole vintage. So, and the wines from 2010, everyone was very happy with them, but they haven't aged quite as well as some of the wines from slightly cooler years as a result. Excuse me. Just trying to remember what I was about to say, because I was about to say something. Cody, I was a little worried about the spice in the Ottolenghi dish would overpower the wine. Oh, good, it hasn't. What spices are in the Ottolenghi dish, Cody? Because I think Pinot Noir, and particularly the Robinson Pinot Noir, can cope really well with spicy food. And so I give myself time, and I remember what I was about to say. We were having a conversation around the lunch table yesterday about food and wine matching, and we talk a lot about food and wine matching during these sessions. And there was sort of a slightly heated conversation about whether food and wine matching was a load of rubbish, or whether there was some sort of science or method to the madness. And Peter, who I hope is watching, hello Peter and Millie. Peter was saying that he doesn't really believe in food and wine matching because most wine and most food go okay together. There's not very many wine and foods that are really terrible together, and there's not many wine and foods that are really kind of like amazingly brain explodingly exciting together. I think from my personal experience, I would say that there's a higher percentage of wine and food matches that don't really work than was stated. And I think there's a higher percentage of wine and food matches that are really pleasing, and going from pleasing all the way up to amazing. But there's a lot in the middle that is just some wine and some food, and they don't like fight with each other too much, and they're pretty good together. So I do think that one of the things that I will say is that I think that a lot of people have very hard and fast rules about what you can and you can't drink with what food, and what you can't eat with what wine. And I think that's ridiculous. If you like to drink Pedro Jimenez sherry with your oysters, go for it. Just don't ask me to do the same thing. I think everybody likes to do their own thing. Okay, now I've got a whole lot of questions. Craig, do you have weather stations in the vineyard? Would be interesting to track them by row. Yeah, very nerd alert, Craig. We have weather stations in the vineyard, but only one per vineyard, so not row by row. And unfortunately, at the moment, the weather stations need servicing, and the person who used to service them has disappeared. So, thanks to the pandemic, we've lost our weather station services, but we're working on that. So, yes, Craig, that would be good. Kate, grab this from the bomb. 2013 was characterised by the third warmest overall temperature on record, the third warmest maximum and minimum temperature on record, high rainfall totals along part of the coast. So yes, I think for me, 2013 and 2016 were both quite warm years, but 13 was more evenly warm across the vintage. So this is a pretty good example of about as warm as it's got. But you just can't say that it's not going to get warmer in the future. So we'll wait and see. So, Fiona, I like a good match, but I love to break the rules too. Yeah, absolutely. And food and wine matching. The different food, Yeah, the difference that food can have on wine and vice versa can be incredible. And I think some wines and foods really fight with each other. I think a lot of chili can be problematic. So interesting, Cody, that you've got chili, two types of chili and lots of black pepper in your in your ottolenghi recipe. And Pinot Noir actually surprisingly copes pretty well with chili up to a certain point. If it's too fiery, and I'm thinking sort of like really traditionally made Thai food, I think is hard to match to any kind of wine. And I'd probably go for kind of a soft, off dry Riesling or Gewürztraminer or something floral and white to go with a really spicy Thai dish, particularly as Thai food has lots of seafood in it, lots of pork and chicken in it. So those sort of flavors work better with a white wine. I think I told some of you the story that I went to a Szechuan restaurant in Melbourne with one of our Pinot Noirs a few years ago, and was pretty impressed at how well the wine stood up to the incredibly high levels of chili in Szechuan food. So I think you can push the boundaries quite a lot, and you can be it depends how tolerant you are of things, and it depends how much you like hot, spicy food, for example. If you don't like spicy chilies, you're going to like it even less with your favorite wine, because your wine's not going to taste the same, and the chilies are going to numb your palate a little bit, and you're going to have more heat produced from the chilies when you put alcohol in your mouth as well. So alcohol will enhance the chili burn. Some people love that. Some people don't love that so much. Craig, what are you saying? We once had a food wine match at a degustation that was mind-blowing. Acidic Chardonnay and cashew paste, pesto salad. Nothing else is really done at that level. Exactly. I think that, and you never quite know why and how those amazing food and wine matches really work. And for me, sometimes it's as simple as a really beautiful fresh oyster and a gorgeous glass of high acid Chardonnay, whether it be young Robinson Chardonnay or whether it be a glass of really good Chablis. I think that can be a beautiful, or a Blanc de Blanc champagne with a beautiful, fresh, gorgeous oyster. That's the simplest and the most gorgeous wine and food match that I can think of. I like drinking this kind of wine with a really good steak, but I wouldn't put a pepper sauce on it necessarily. I might put a mushroom sauce on it, because I think the mushroom enhances the flavor of the wine more than a pepper sauce would. I'm not saying that the pepper sauce would make it unpleasant, but I'm always looking for what makes it more enjoyable and more exciting, and how can we kind of combine and contrast things. So Chablis is a very good food wine, but I think a lot of really good cool climate Australian Chardonnays also work very well with a lot of foods. So, I think it's pretty cool. How is this wine evolving? It's starting to get, the fruit is starting to come forward more. And it's almost like a sort of, there's a little confectionery or a slight sort of slightly cooked fruit character. It's not jam as such, but it's as though you've just kind of heated the cherries and maybe some strawberries over a low heat and just warm them up to kind of increase the perfume a little bit. The Sous-Bois is still coming through, and the spice is getting stronger, I think. The other thing I like to match to wine is different textures in food, which was another reason that I suggested the mushroom tart, because you've got that crunchy puff pastry around the edges and underneath the tart, and then you've got that lovely soft ricotta and the mushrooms on top. You've got a lot of different textures, and the wine just kind of helps to bring them all together and make them all rather delicious. I'm not sure if anyone made a baked ricotta either this week. It's a really simple sounding recipe, but again, if you haven't tried it, give it a go. It's sort of like a Cheats cheese souffle, and a cheese souffle, I think, works, if it's made with the right cheeses, works brilliantly with Pinot Noir as well, because you've got that softness and fluffiness. The texture of the food, as well as the flavor of the food, works really, really well with the silkiness and the slipperiness of the wine. So For me, it's partly about aroma and flavour profile. It's partly about how the alcohol and the acid works with the spice, or sometimes lots of garlic or lots of onion can do similar things, particularly if it's not cooked down a lot. They can fight with wine a bit. And there's quite a lot of cuisines that will have raw garlic in them, perhaps. Hello, Alison and Andrew. Cheers. Was your dog good tonight? You probably have worked hard and deserve a glass of Pinot Noir now. You haven't missed too much. Just 25 minutes of banter and me talking, hopefully not too much rubbish. I've got to say, when I was picking from the garden, I picked some basil, and I was really worried that I wasn't going to be able to get the basil smell off my fingers because I had so much. That basil is so perfumed. I had to wash my hands like 3 times. It's gone now, but I'll be sticking my nose in it again after the tasting, because I think it's pretty awesome. The other wine and food match that I think is really interesting is I find most sort of fairly traditional Italian foods work best with Italian varietals. And what I mean by that is there's not a lot of French red wines that go really well with very tomatoey dishes, whereas there's a lot of Italian red wines that work really well with tomato flavours. Cotti, I make a super simple ricotta cheesecake that's ricotta, sugar and eggs. Would Pinot Noir go with that? I don't think so, Cotti, because of the sweetness. I really don't like matching, even if it's quite a low sugar cheesecake. Give it a go. I mean, I could be completely wrong, but I find I think Pinot Noir needs some saltiness to it. And the thing about that ricotta bake, and some of the recipes that I kind of looked up said, I'll put some lemon rind in and pour some honey over the top. I would say don't do that if you're going to try and pair it to Pinot Noir. It needs ricotta and parmesan and some salt and pepper in it, and keep it really kind of savoury, and bake it, and maybe a little bit of thyme on top, maybe a little bit of olive oil, just to kind of bring out the flavours, and just keep it that simple. And I think that's a really interesting suggestion, adding cinnamon to the ricotta cheesecake. It might work. Again, I'm not a huge fan of dessert with dry wine, but if it works for you, then absolutely do it. You can see my lighting's terrible. I can't come up a bit closer. There we go. See, when I come closer, I get a little bit better light. Otherwise, I'm in shadow. Now it's too bright. God. What else? Oh, thank you, Michael. That's very kind. This wine still has a fair bit of tannin, but suspect it would have had a lot more on the back palate on release. Nareem, I think that's right. I think Zach and Jack are in the Margaret River. Yay. Hi. Hello, Liz and Cam. Welcome. Nareem, I think this wine does have really good structure, and it's one of the things about Moorooduc wines that you'll see. Funnily enough, when this wine was young, the fruit was much richer and plusher. So both the tannin and the acid were hidden more by the plushness of the fruit. So as the wine's aged over the last 10 years, the fruit's just kind of settled down and become a little bit more restrained, a little bit more savoury, and developed a little bit more. And so then the tannin and the acid are sticking out a little bit more in the wine and making the wine seem more savoury, more structured. It's always had that structure and that savouriness, but it's had the sweet, fruity fruit on top of it when it was younger that kind of hid that away. Funnily enough, our 2013s from the much warmer year than 2012s were much easier to sell when they were young. And that's one of the things about the warm year Pinot Noirs particularly. They have a plushness and an approachability when they're young that make them really user-friendly. And so customers come and taste them at cellar door, and they think they're absolutely delicious. And they take them home and they drink them. They don't give them any time to age. I think with the age, this one has developed a lot more maturity and has more grown-up flavours. And I like it better now than I did when it was young. But there's not many bottles of it that would have had a chance to do this because it was so delicious as a young wine. Big and juicy and plush, though. Whereas the 2012s were quite savoury and quite restrained and quite elegant, and they needed time to age. And so they've sort of they're wines that people would have been much more likely to put in their cellar if they bought them and come back to them later on. So it's interesting to see how those different shape wines do different things. Craig, what is your pick of vintage so far? So that's a really difficult question, Craig, because I think that the wines that we're making today, and I mean 2021, 22, 23 is too soon to pick, but I think the wines that we're making right now are probably better wines because I think we're picking the fruit exactly when we want to. Our vines are a little bit older, so they're producing more complex flavours. We are actually making less wine in the winery because we're making less wine for other people. So we've got more time to concentrate on what's happening in our vineyard and with our wines without having to be distracted by making wine for contract customers. And also there's 3 of us in the winery plus a couple of helpers during vintage. Hello, helpers. That's more people than we haven't always had that many people in the winery and in the vineyard. And so and Jeremy's here full time all year round, as is Dad. Craig, sorry, I'm answering the wrong question. And gosh, OneDrive keeps verifying. I don't know if you can see that. Hopefully you can't. It's a bit distracting for me, but that's all right. My computer's doing weird updates. Okay, so of this vintage, but I was going to say, Craig, in answer to the question that you didn't ask, I really like 2012 at the moment for drinking. I think that 2015 is another vintage that I really like, and I really like the wines from 2021, which we're going to be releasing later in the year. Of this vintage of 2013, well, I haven't tasted the Duck Chardonnay that we're tasting next week for quite a while, so I'm looking forward to tasting that again. I really liked the Pinots from 2013 when they were young, more than the Chardonnays, but I was really impressed with the Robinson Chardonnay last week, and I'm looking forward to tasting the McIntyre Chardonnay next week because I think that Robinson Chardonnay has aged gorgeously, and I think that that's in a really good place. The Pinot Noir's aged very well as well, but I loved it from the start, whereas the Chardonnay was a bit more obvious. It was a bit less elegant than the 2012s. It was much easier to sell because of that, but I thought it was a bit big when it was young, and the wines have aged gorgeously. So I will have to ask me that question again in 2 weeks' time, Craig, and I will attempt to give you a proper answer. So Zach and Jack, yes, you are drinking a little bit early, but that's all right. Still light there. It's only 4:30. Well, we've got a beautiful, I don't know who can see out their window, but there's an amazing sunset that's just happened. The sky's very orange and all the horizon's gone sort of black and grey, which is wonderful. Which is, I was just thinking the other day when I was driving home from work in the dark and thinking, I'm not sure if I'm ready for summer to be over, but I think I'm getting into the swing of the cooler weather and the shorter days and all of that kind of thing. I haven't in the past been quite as disappointed by the end of summer, and I think it's because we had such a short summer and not enough really hot weather for me to be able to go, oh God, it's been too hot this summer. Let's let it cool down. So the answer to that whole riddle is that obviously we're easily displeased and not easily pleased by life and weather, and we should just enjoy what we've got. I agree, Fiona. Pinot is an autumn wine, and it goes well with autumn flavours. So we were talking about mushrooms before, but I think also, you feel like eating roast vegetables and roast chicken and things like that in the cooler weather. And Pinot Noir works so well with those flavours. I think it's a little bit of I'm coming back to our little match made in heaven. I do think Pinot Noir does very, very well with autumnal vegetables and offerings. Now, Michael, heading off to do the Nakasendo tomorrow morning. Any suggestions? Read Japanese wines. So Michael, I don't know much about Japanese wine at all. The ones that I've tasted have generally been pretty disappointing. Um, Grace Winery in Japan makes probably the most famous Japanese wine, and it's that Japanese variety. It's a white variety, and I can't remember what it's called off the top of my head. Someone will be able to tell me. But yes, I agree with Penny. Drink sake. Japanese whiskey is amazing too, in a highball particularly. Sorry, Jill's left her phone in the room and it's ringing, so I'm going to ignore it and hope that they go away sooner rather than later. But sorry about the little cricket chirping in the background. I think the problem with drinking wine in Japan is Japanese wine is hard to find decent stuff. It's not shochu because that's a Japanese spirit, but it's something like that, the Japanese grape variety. It's not that exciting, to be honest. It's a fairly neutral, slightly floral white wine that goes very nicely with excellent. Shell just kicked a cricket out of the house while on the call, and she thought it was him arriving at Moorooduc. 12-year-old Yamakaze whiskey Kevin is recommending to you, Michael, and they do have crazy expensive grapes, Craig, and any imported wine in Japan is outrageously expensive as well. Yuzushu is lovely, says Nina. What's yuzushu? Is that the yuzu flavoured alcoholic fizzy drink? That you can buy alcoholic flavoured fizzy drink of all sorts of flavours, which is quite fun. But I think, explore the beers and the sakes and the whiskies. I would say personally in Japan, I kind of keep away from wine. And if you are looking for wine, check out Grace Vineyards. Look for Grace Vineyards, and they're probably the most successful quality producer of wine in Japan. And the best vineyards in Japan are up in Hokkaido because it's a bit more. There's more land for farms and things up there, and they've got wild vines up in the forests. So you might find something interesting, but maybe take a couple of bottles in your suitcase as well. Wrap them up in your T-shirts. Not such a silly idea. Okay, so I knew that Shell would have some options. Get on the double lemons. Tons of options in the konbini. Shell, I can see all the words. I can read all. I don't understand what it means. Can you please explain more? Craig, no, we don't distribute in Japan. We would like to. Yuzushu is not a wine. I guess more of a spirit liqueur. Cool. Craig, we would like to distribute in Japan. We did once upon a time, a long time ago, and unfortunately the distributor went broke and had a fire sale of all of the wine that they had in the country. And I was advised by many experts on the Japanese wine industry that once that's happened, you need to wait 10 or 15 years for it to go out of people's memories. The Japanese have a very long memory for price cuts in wine. It's about 15 years ago now for us, so we're just sort of poking around, having a look to see if there's anyone that we want to work with. And there's a lovely young man that we've been talking to, but we haven't quite managed to make those stars align yet. So who knows? I would love to export to Japan because it's one of the places that I really enjoy going back to, and having an excuse to go for business and then tack on a week's holiday, perhaps skiing or something like that, would make me very happy. So we'll keep working on that. This wine, the Robinson, Penny didn't really drink wine in Japan. I've walked the Nakasendo and enjoyed something sake at the end of the daily walk. Yeah. Craig, I don't understand. Oh, Moorooduc. Is that, yes? Moorooduc wine ski tour. That sounds like a great idea. Once I get a distributor in Japan, we'll do a Moorooduc wine ski tour and a whiskey and sake tour. That would be fun. This wine, the 2013 Robinson Pinot Noir, has done very well for us, though, in another export market, which is the UK. And the UK It's really interesting selling Australian Pinot Noir in the UK because they're pretty open-minded about anything. But Pinot Noir is the hardest one to sort of get across the line because it's a bit expensive. There's no sort of cheap Pinot Noir out there, and the English love to be able to compare and contrast their £10 bottle versus their £20 bottle versus their £30 bottle. And so that's slightly problematic. And they used to think that Australian red wine particularly had to be really ripe and over-alcoholic and too rich, and Pinot Noir can't be any of those things. So taking this wine to the UK, being slightly more elegant and restrained of our two single vineyard Pinots, particularly in 2013, the McIntyre was a giant of a thing. The Pinot Noir, the Robinson Pinot Noir has done very well. Fortunately for us, the McIntyre 2013 Pinot Noir got picked by Decanter as one of their top Pinot Noirs and was the first of our Pinots, first or second of our Pinots to go on the front cover. And so we will not be trying the 2013 McIntyre Pinot Noir because it sold through at a ridiculous rate. It was a little bit disappointing how much we sold so quickly, and we failed to put very much of that aside at all. So if you want to taste the 2013 McIntyre Pinot, the only way that you'll get a chance is if you've got some in your own cellar, or a friend has some, or I think we have tiny quantities of it downstairs, and we might open a bottle every now and again for Pinot dinner here or lunch here. So Fiona, I'm glad that you are enamored with the Robinson. It does great things. And I think that because it's slightly less well known than the McIntyre, then it's still a little more accessible than the McIntyre Pinot. And has the UK, have they really whacked more taxes on Aussie wine? They were talking about taking all the taxes off. So I'll have to check that up. When did that happen? I've been too busy heading vintage and missed out on that bit of information. It was ironic when okay. No, so I was going to say, Fiona, Brexit was ironic because all of the European wines that go into the UK now have to have all the paperwork that our wine has to, and we were thinking that would even things up a little bit. And our government had been talking about trying to do some good deals with the UK government about taxes on Australian wine being a bit less, but sounds like it's gone the other way. 26th of March, Kay, thank you. I'll check it out, see what's going on. Anyway, I think compared to Burgundy still, Pinot's pretty good value for money in the UK, so it does pretty well. Yeah, exactly, Kay. So much for the free trade agreement. Anyway, that's a gloomy conversation for another day. I think we'll still do all right. Yeah, that's what I thought, Paul and Roz. I'm going to check it all out, but maybe they've signed a free trade agreement with them, and then they put taxes up on wine or something to make up the difference. It might end up just being exactly the same as what it was before, but just a different tax, a different way of getting that extra money out of us. But the French do think very highly of their own wine, Alison, and a lot of the English think very highly of French wine, but it's suddenly, since Brexit, become very expensive in England compared to what it used to be. So it'll be really interesting to see how that all evolves. We buy subs, they buy wine. Yes, I would have thought so, Craig. It sounds like a fair deal. And they're talking about managing to talk China around on our grains, and people are talking about the potential for Australian wine going back into China without the huge tariffs. It's not going to have any effect on Moorooduc because we put our toe in the water with China and it was too hard, and we don't have enough wine we don't have enough wine anyway. So I think that's not going to be a problem for us. In the UK, we are with Alison, a group of independent retailers who form their own buying group. They're called Vindependents. And if you have a look on their website, there's a whole lot of independent retailers who are part of the group. Depending on where you are in the UK, there's quite a few. It's sort of scattered all across England and Wales and Scotland. we are not in all of the stores because all of the stores are independently owned. So they have sort of 3 or 4 trade shows every year in London, and people can come and taste all the wines and decide what they want to buy. Not in Berry Brothers, Anne. They've got their own importing system, and they only stock their own wines that they import. But we're with a lovely group called Caviste. It's a couple of wine stores owned by a lovely man called Mark Bedford, and he's been a big supporter of Moorooduc for a long time. They sell the wine through their 2 stores, but they also send the wine anywhere you want in the UK. So you can certainly chase it down there. Cambridge Wine Cellars has our wine, as does Noel Young Cellars, also in Cambridge. There's quite a big handful of independent retailers in London that have our wines. Hennings is outside of London. I can't remember where they are, but I went there last year, so they have our wine, and they're lovely. They're sort of down in the south, sort of somewhere coastal, but I can't remember where. Le Vignoble is a couple of wine bars in Bristol and Plymouth, I think, who have our wine. So it's all over, but if you have a look at the Vindependence website, you'll get an idea of who the people are. Bottles, I think there's a place called Bottles in London that has our wine. Planet of the Grapes, which I think is a great name for a wine bar in London, have been great stockers of our wines. And there's a number of others who have them that I can't off the top of my head think of. But I can certainly, if you're going to the UK or if you've got friends in the UK that you want to put in touch with a retailer or an importer, send me an email and I'll send you a full list. So that's easy. Planet of the Grapes, good, excellent. It's a lovely place, and the people who run it are just gorgeous. So I'm hoping to go and see them again this year when I'm over there. I'm only in the UK for a short period of time, and I'm doing the Vindependence new releases wine tasting in London. But I'm getting around to a couple of places while I'm there, so it'll be fun. It's really great, really fun. So if you're going over there, I can recommend places to go and drink our wine and also have good food. If you've got friends who are looking for Moorooduc wine in the UK, I can also put you in touch with some people. It was great. Good on you, Nina. I think at the just past 47 minutes mark, guys, I'm going to wrap it up about now. We do, Alison, have our boutique brand positioning absolutely spot on in the UK, and it's really nice being with a whole lot of different retailers because they all do things differently. Fiona, your tarts are ready. Well, that's perfect timing. You can go and enjoy your tarts in peace and quiet. The wine has opened a lot in the 47 minutes nearly 48 minutes we've been talking. Much smoother, a bit more dark fruit coming through. The spices kind of just slipped back again a little bit, and it's a bit richer, but that earthy kind of leafy character is also really looking lovely now. I think this is a beautiful wine. It's definitely smoother. It's got really lovely silky tannins now. They took a little while to sort of soften out with some air. Penny, I'll be in touch really soon. I promise I haven't forgotten you. Thank you, everyone. It has been wonderful. I think this Pinot Noir has still got a little way to go. If you had some in your cellar, don't feel you have to drink it up too quickly. If you don't have any in your cellar, we really don't have any much in the museum. I'll go and have a look down tomorrow. Another bit of news, and I think he was on. I'm not sure if he's still on, but Nigel, very sadly for us, Nigel is leaving us at the end of the week. So, Nigel, thank you very much for all your care and attention that you've given to Moorooduc over the last couple of years. It's been awesome. We will miss you, and cheers to you. I will see all of you next week with a bottle of the Moorooduc McIntyre Chardonnay from 2013. So we continue the 2030 exploration. We're back to Chardonnay next week. I've got the best recipe to send you. I'm finally super organised. I know what I'm going to send you. I just need to type it up. It's a recipe that Mum gave me. It's really lovely. It's chickeny and it's rich, and I think it'll be terrific with the wine. So yes, if you want to come and say goodbye to Nigel in person, he'll be here tomorrow and Saturday, and then he's finished. going on holiday and he's not coming back, which is very sad. Anyway, cheers, Nigel. He'll stay friends with Moorooduc. So I don't think it'll be the last that we've heard of him. But good luck in your future ventures, Nigel. I will see everyone next week. Enjoy your tarts and your mushrooms and the rest of your Pinot. And first, if there are Nigel issues, no, Craig, just different people having different options in life. Just bad timing. Yeah, I was a bit shocked, to be honest. It's a little bit quick, but we're hoping that we can hold on to the next lot for a little bit longer. It's life is life. Anyway, we send Nigel off with our blessings, and we hope he has a wonderful next part of his career. So I will see you all next week. Enjoy the rest of your Pinot Noir. I'll see you for Chardonnay next week, and I'll send you an email on Monday with all of my recommendations, what to pair to it. You can ignore me or do it, whatever you feel like. Cheers, everyone. Absolutely, Alison. Yes, Craig, it might be a bit of a commute, Craig, but yes, anyone who'd like to apply. I think we're okay for the moment, but yes, get in contact if you're looking for a cellar door job. I will see you all next week. Love you lots. Take care. Cheers.